Hi YouTube. This is a video demonstrating Padangusthasana and PadaHastasana. Padangusthasana and PadaHastasana are two standing forward bends, and they are the first two standing postures in the Ashtanga Yoga standing sequence. And so in Ashtanga Yoga, after you were to finish your Sun Salutation A and Sun Salutation B, you would transition to the standing sequence, and these are the first two poses of that sequence. They're both continuations of Uttanasana, which is the simple standing forward fold that shows up in Sun A and Sun B. Uttanasana translates to intense posture. Padangusthasana, your padas are your feet, and angusta or angula would be your digits, your fingers and toes. And so this is kind of like a literal translation could be foot digit pose or toe pose. And then PadaHastasana, again, pada is your feet, and hasta, your hastas are your hands, and so it's hand-foot pose. I like when the yoga postures have a, call it literal name and translation, and that it's kind of telling you what you do, that your hands touch your feet, you grab your toes, that type of thing. Many postures are named after animals, inanimate objects, shapes, or they start to become, as the postures generally get more advanced, they start to be named after saints, deities, gods, etc. And unless you really know a lot about the mythology there or the history there, that it often doesn't mean a whole lot. It's just kind of a name. So I like these literal postures. So Padangusthasana, the feet are about hip width distance, and so I'll show from the front. For me, that's about there. You can find your frontal hip bones, your AS, IS. Anterior superior iliac spine is what that stands for, ASIS. And middle of your thigh could be about in line with that, and that's a good way for most people to approximate hip width distance. And again, these are deeper variations of Uttanasana. And so I'll preface this video by saying that for many, these postures are probably deeper than they need to work on. And that for the extension component or the flat back component, it's useful to lift up and off of your thighs when your knees are bent. That mimics lifting your torso up and off of the floor if you were laying on your belly for a yoga pose called Shalabhasana. And then you can lift up enough till the back muscles engage, the spine is in extension, and then you find the height where the knees want to straighten. And for some, that might actually be quite high if there's some stiffness and tension in the back of the thighs, across the buttocks, the sacrum, the lower back. As people become more flexible, or if they start out more flexible, that might be lower. And then at some point, if you can keep the spine in extension and the fingertips touch the floor, then Padangusthasana might be a useful pose for you. And so I'm going to take my peace fingers, the index and the middle, and I'm going to take hold of the big toe. And so those fingers are coming between the big toe and the second toe. And this posture has an extension phase and a flexion phase. And so the extension phase is just like I did before, and you could even bend the knees here, that even if I'm holding the toes, I can still feel that my spine has entered into extension. And then I could straighten the legs here and try not to lose the spine. And the breathing here would be an inhalation. And so you inhale, and then there'd be an exhale. And I find it useful, again, to bend the knees, let the abdomen touch the thighs, keep the abdomen touching the thighs, and let the knees straighten. And then I've maintained contact of abdomen and thighs, and so I know that the back of my legs and my back, that the spine, are both lengthening simultaneously. You could even try to shift the weight forward into the balls of the feet a little bit and out of the heels. The final action here isn't talked about much, but you're trying to push your armpits towards your shins while simultaneously taking the elbows out to the sides. And that's a difficult action, and for some people that will even create nerve sensation through the arms, through the upper extremity. This starts to lengthen either the median nerve, which passes through the carpal tunnel eventually, or the ulnar nerve, which is on the pinky side of the wrist, the little finger side of the wrist. And so again, that action is
pushing the armpits towards the shins, maintaining that engagement in the shoulder, and then taking the elbows out to the side. You can let the head rest. And this would be generally held for 5 breaths. The exit is the same. You inhale, come up to the extension phase. Right? For some, you might need to bend the knees again. That will let you engage the back. So there's an inhale into that position, and then an exhale. And then technically, the posture could end by coming to Samastitihi, or many people, when they're doing an Ashtanga practice, they let these two postures blur into each other. And so I'll demonstrate that posture one more time, only saying the breath, only saying the vinyasa, the breathing instruction, and then I'll transition right to PadaHastasana, which is hand-foot pose. And so technically, this could be holding the toes, Yekam inhale, Yekam is 1, Dve exhale, Dve is 2. We'll expedite 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 breaths. Maybe a bend in the knees. Trini inhale, and then exhale, which doesn't have a number, it's just an extra breath. And then it's switching to PadaHastasana. Same mechanics. Now I'm stepping on the palms. This can become a traction of the wrist. Bend the knees. I can straighten my knees and maintain the extension in my spine. That's an inhale. And then there's an exhale. Abdomen touches thighs. Same shoulder mechanic here. I can think about pushing the armpits towards my knees and thighs, and then letting the elbows move laterally outwards towards the sides of the room and forwards. So the armpits are pushing towards my thighs, but the elbows are moving away from them. This would again be held for 5 breaths. And then the exit is to the extension phase. There's an inhale, and then an exhale there. And then it would come to Samastitihi. So I'll show from the top. Padangusthasana. Yekam inhale. Dve exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 breaths. Trini inhale. And exhale. PadaHastasana, hand-foot pose. Yekam inhale. Dve exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 breaths. Trini inhale. And exhale. And Samastitihi. Hope you found that useful. The shoulder action isn't taught often, but is very useful. That as the shoulder blades spread, it rounds the upper back. But to keep the upper back rounded and then start to take the elbows out to the sides is quite difficult. And that would be the beginning action of nerve traction for the upper extremity. That the nerves that feed the hand start at the neck, they start off the spinal cord, they come off, and they pass through this kind of collarbone area, and then exit through the armpit and the inner arm, and make their way downwards. And so, to traction those nerves, and I have some videos showing this, you would first spread the shoulder blades, and then possibly straightening the elbows and extending the wrist. This could be a median nerve stretch. And then if you bend the elbows and point the fingers towards the collarbones, right, but I'm still pushing the elbows and shoulder blades forward, this becomes an ulnar nerve traction. This could also be an ulnar nerve contraction. And then the reverse is, this is radial nerve. And the ball and socket joint is turned in, the wrist is flexed, and the fingertips are touching. Median, median, ulnar, ulnar, radial, median, median, ulnar, ulnar, radial. so on and so forth. It becomes a flowing sequence. It can also go in reverse. But I have some other videos, if you search in my channel, giving an in-depth explanation of those nerve tractioning exercises. But you can get a little bit of that in Padangusthasana and PadaHastasana. And if you've sort of maxed out on what your legs, core, spine is doing, you can start to play with the shoulder and arm. So thank you, namaste.